you'll need your watercolour set ready and a pencil, a nice sharp pencil if possible, a piece of A4 paper. It doesn't have to be watercolour paper because we're not going to make this really, really wet. So it's not, if you do have normal printed paper, that's going to be okay today because it's not going to be very, very, we're not doing lots of water on it. We're only putting a bit of paint on it today. Okay, so I have got watercolour paper here. And you also need a black fine liner to do all the spots of your cheetah. And you will need, if you have got some colouring pencils, just a selection of greens, and I've got a grey there as well. Okay, if you have got those, that'd be great. Just have a bit later on, that's towards the end though. Okay, let's see. Hi, who is that? Someone popped up. Okay. You can always put a message in the chat if you want to say something. That's absolutely.
I don't have a black fine liner.
That's okay. You can use, have you got a Sharpie or a black felt tip pen, or you could use a black colouring pencil.
Does it need to be thin, or am I all right?
Well, it depends what size spots you want to do on your cheetah. So obviously the smaller size fine line you have, the finer the spots can be. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. We're going to get started, guys. Is that okay? So when I start drawing animals, especially actually, I like to look for shapes in their bodies. And as you can see from this cheetah here, he's made up of lots of different shapes. I've got sort of like a more sort of triangle shape as his main part of his body. Can you see that? And then I've got sort of a circle, obviously, for his head as well. So I'm just going to use that main triangle shape. We're going to draw that together. Sorry, people coming in. We're going to draw that together to work out the proportions of everything else. Okay, so I'm going to draw this shape here, but I'm going to press quite finely with my pencil. I don't want to make too dark a line on my pencil. So I'm going to go along the back of my cheetah first.
Liz, are we using A4 or A5 paper?
It's up to you. I'm using A4, but you can use A5 if you want to go smaller.
Okay.
Okay. So I'm just going to draw the line, the triangular shape of my cheetah first of all. I'm just going to sort of just do it quite sketchy, quite lightly. So that's down the back there. Can you see that? Hope you can see that. That's the back of him. Don't worry about the curved bit of his tail at the moment. We'll put that in a bit later on. Okay, and then I'm going to go along the bottom. This is going to be the ground that he's sort of sitting on. Okay, again, we'll just do it quite lightly. Okay, so I've got two sides of my triangle there. Can you sort of see the shape coming together, this bit here? Hopefully that's quite clear. And then we're going to do a vertical line, which is going to be the front part of his body. So from the neck all the way down to his front foot. Okay, so it's quite a straight line. And I'm going to leave a little bit of a gap for his head up here. I'm just going to draw a sketchy sort of line.
Are we having our page landscape or portrait?
Portrait. That means lengthways, if that makes sense. Okay, so I've got like a triangle shape there with a sort of a gap at the top. Can you see that? Hopefully you've all got something similar. Now, cheetahs are really slender animals. They're quite long and lean, obviously, because they're the fastest land animal, aren't they? I think they go 110 kilometers an hour, which is pretty fast. They've got to be really sleek and slim, so sort of aerodynamic, I suppose. So we're going to try and make him look quite sleek. Okay, so is everyone up to that stage there? Hopefully you are. All good? So next thing we're going to do is we're going to put in his legs and the back bit here. So this bit here and the front bit here. So halfway up this line, the vertical line here, I want you to put a little line. Okay, like that there. Can you see that? Tiny little mark there. And then halfway along the bottom as well, I want you to put, just going to mark the edge of his back foot here. Can you see that's halfway along that bottom line, that horizontal line? I don't know if you can see very clearly there, actually. I'll press it a bit harder so you can see. Hope you can see better. Now that line that I did up here is going to be where the leg goes to. So this line here. All right, so the leg is halfway up this line here. So I'm going to draw another vertical line parallel to that first line that I drew here. And that's just going to be his leg. Okay, I might do a little foot at the bottom as well. So it only goes up halfway. Let's just check the messages. Sorry, there's messages here. I can't make this screen any bigger, I'm afraid. I've pinned it already, so hopefully it should be your main screen. Sorry, someone says they can't see the screen. Hopefully you should be able to see the main desktop. I'm afraid this is on my phone, so the screen's not that big. Hope it's okay for everybody. Okay, so you've got your first leg in there. Is everybody good with that? No, don't worry, I'll hold off for a second, that's fine. Got a few people shaking their heads, that's okay. How are you all doing?
Mine looks like it's wearing wellies.
Don't worry, we can slim those legs down if they're looking a bit chunky. Don't worry.
Because they're like big at the bottom and then they're really thin at the top, and it looks like it's wearing big wellies.
Okay, in that case, just rub out that line and then you can just make it a little bit thinner at the bottom. Okay, so you could just go a little bit wide at the top maybe and then go thinner as you go to the bottom, or just keep it parallel for now. Okay, I have pinned the screen, so hopefully you should all see this. Okay, and then on the back leg, the one along the bottom here, sorry, it's not pinned, sorry, Theo. Has everyone got this main desktop as their main pin?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah? Okay, Theo, if you just try doing yours individually, if you scroll across to my desktop and try pin that, because I think it might just be on yours, because I think everyone else has got theirs as this is the main view. Sorry about that, Theo. Right, okay, let's get onto the bottom leg now. So halfway across, sorry, the back leg, halfway across that horizontal line there, we're going to mark up this sort of curved shape here, this bit here. Can you see this here? So I'm going to draw like a backward C shape, which ends up at that halfway point. And then a little sort of paw at the bottom, like a little semicircle there. Okay, it's very small. Don't worry, it's not very clear right now, but it will be clear when we put more detail in. Okay. So you should have the main body so far with his legs here. I'm now going to put in his tummy. Now you want to keep this line here, which we're going to do next. You want to keep it pretty much parallel to the back line, but maybe slightly going away as you get towards that front leg, okay? I'll just demonstrate first. So from about here on your C shape, it's about halfway up your C shape, you're going to take your line, it's a diagonal line, up towards the top of that leg, that first leg you did. Can you see that there? That's going to be his tummy. All right. Hopefully you're all okay. Just give me a thumbs up if you're okay. I think most of you are. Thanks, Bella. Well done, guys. Everybody okay? Amelia, Effie, you okay? Good, good.
Mine looks like someone's cut a hole out of its stomach, because it looks like there's a bit carrying on in the bottom, and then I've just like cut a hole out.
Okay, I will have a look at yours in just a second. I'm just going to move on to the next bit and then I'll come back to you. Is that okay?
Okay.
What's your name, sorry?
Charlotte. Actually, I'm the original Bob.
The original Bob. Okay, I'll come back to you in a second, okay? Right, okay, we're going to move on to the head now. Now, I'm going to make my neck a little bit slimmer, so I'm going to bring those lines a bit closer together. And I'm going to put on, it's like a balloon shape, so it's not completely circular. It's sort of, yeah, imagine a balloon. It's a bit narrow at the bottom, isn't it? It's like a round head and sort of more of a narrower bottom there. Can you all see that? Everyone got that? Okay, and then you'll be ready to put his little ears on as well. So I would say probably about, if you're looking at the face of a clock, imagine that's a clock. I would say where 1 o'clock would be, That's where I'm going to put his first ear. So imagine it's a circle and a clock face, and 1 o'clock is where his first ear will be. So it's just like a little pointy one, the little line underneath like that. I'll hold it up so you can see it a bit closer for those who've got a smaller screen. Can you see that? If you have. He does it because he's got quite a pointy bottom right now. Don't worry, we're going to round that up and fatten up a bit in a minute. Okay, and then for his other ear, so this one will be about 11 o'clock on a clock face. So just like a little triangle shape, slightly pointy at the end.
I did more like 2 and 10.
That's fine, don't worry. Whatever works for you guys. Okay, so we've got the main shape of the head now, and we'll do all the eyes and everything else in just a second. We're going to go back down his back now and down towards his bottom, this bit here, this sharp corner. So we're going to round this corner off. So imagine you've got almost like a circle going on here. Just rounding off. I'm going quite heavy with my pencil here just so you guys can see it, but you don't have to go as heavy. You're going to rub out that very sharp bit from the corner here. You don't need that anymore. That was just for your original shape. Okay. And if you want to, you can see from mine as well, I've put a bit of a sort of a curve in here, the bottom part of his back, slightly curved here. So you might want to slightly change your angle of your line, which I'm going to do too. Keep it the same, keep it quite straight, but you might want to make it slightly rounder. And then you can rub out that original line, just to make it look a bit more cat-like. Okay, it's a bit more curved now.
Mine looks like it's got a big bum.
I'm sure it looks great. Okay, let's go on to the tail now. Now in that sort of area. So the tail is going to come along the front of your cheetah. Okay, so it starts off slightly narrower, so slightly thinner towards the bottom part, and it gets a little bit wider and thicker as it gets towards the end, okay, because it's slightly further and closer to you. So if you just watch for a second, and then you'll be able to copy, okay? So I'm going to do the outside line first of all. So it's a bit like a sort of snake coming out. Here we go, going round like this. And then I'm going to put a slight wave in it, slight sort of curve in it there. I'll hold up so you can see it a bit clearer. Can you see that? The cheetahs have really long tails. Don't you ever noticed that before? I think it's to help them run fast. So we've only done one line of the tail. And then the other line is going to go right next to it. But remembering to make it a little bit thicker as it gets towards the end, okay? So go a little bit thicker. Oops. Okay, with a slight bump in it as well. And they haven't got pointy tails, they've got quite sort of rounded tails as well. They have sort of a white tip to them, which are look quite fluffy. You can see on this one, I'll show you. Can you see that there? Okay. How are we all doing? Is it okay? I'm going to crack on with this because otherwise I'm worried we're not going to get it all finished within the hour. Okay, so but if you do need to go back to it, you can watch the recording a bit later on and sort of there's a bit you've missed or want to catch up on. Okay. Now let's oh sorry, who's that?
We missed it last week because it's normally on a Sunday, so we missed it. Can you put the recording up?
Of last week's one. I'll message you a bit later on. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Great.
Because it's normally on a Sunday, so we got confused.
Yeah, it's all changed now, I'm afraid. Saturdays work better for most people. Okay. Right, okay, let's carry on with this line up here. So this line is the front line of the leg here. Can you see this? So we're going to make that a little bit longer, just to carry it up a bit. And actually it's a bit thicker as well because it's more of the muscular part of his leg. Okay, can you see that? It doesn't go up very far, just a little bit. Okay. And we're going to go to his head now. Now you will see that I put a crown on this guy here. You can put whatever headgear on. If you don't want to do any headgear, that's absolutely fine. My nephew, it's his birthday yesterday, and I'm doing a party for him later on today, and his favourite animal is a cheetah. And he has wanted, I'll show you the one I've done for him. He's got a little birthday cake next to his, can you see? And a little party hat too. So you might want to do one for a birthday card for somebody, up to you. I put a crown on this one here, like King of the Jungle, although the lion might not be happy with that. Or you could put a woolly hat on him. We just put any hat. You could put anything on really. You can choose, or nothing, okay? You can put a birthday cake in the front as well, up to you. So I'm going to draw that on there now. I'm going to do another crown, I think. So I'm going to draw a line up here, just on top of his first ear. And then another line here, either side. And then I'm going to do a sort of zigzag line to join those two lines
It
up.
looks a bit like a deer before you've joined it up.
With little horns, it does a bit, doesn't it? Okay, and then I'm just going to do a horizontal line across the bottom of the crown. Okay, so it looks like it's sitting on top of his head. And then I can rub out that curved line, which was originally the top part of his head. So it looks like it's sitting on top of the head crown. Can you see that? You could do a top hat actually as well, couldn't you? Or you could do a chef's hat. I just think you could do a chef's hat. That'd be quite fun. Up to you.
I did a chef's hat.
Did you? Brilliant. Or a police hat, maybe.
I did a top hat.
Perfect. I love to see these. Right, let's get on with the eyes now. So eyes are going to be halfway down his head. So with your pencil, just work out where halfway down is on the right-hand side. And you're going to do a little semicircle for his eye. That's one eye there. So that's halfway down. It's a bit further down from the top of the bottom of the crown. I'm sort of imagining where the top of the head was before I rubbed it out. And then I'm going to do one on the other side to match. Another little semicircle. Sort of half eye shape. Look a bit like eyebrows, but actually they are the top of the eyes. Okay, and then what we're going to do is we're going to put in the markings that cheetahs have, which make them very distinctive. They're these black marks which go down the side of their nose, and we're going to draw those in now. So it's a bit like a backward C from the eye, and then around to make like a backward S shape down to the bottom of his head, or towards the bottom of his head there. Can you see that? Yeah. And then we're going to do the opposite. Oops, sorry, the opposite on the other side. So symmetrical shape on the other side. These are going to be put with black fine line a bit later on. Like that. Okay, so we've got the two markings either side of his nose and the top part of his eyes. Now to put the bottom part of the eyes in, we just literally do another semicircle going upwards this time. Like that. Just joining up. If I hold it a bit close to the camera, you might be able to see it a bit better. Can you see that? It looks a bit strange at the moment, but once it's got paint on it and we've coloured a bit of it in, it'll look better. Can you see that? And then we do the same on this side here, joining those two lines up.
Yours looks like it's winking.
The eyes are the same size, that would work well. And then to do the nose, you just do a little triangle right in the middle of that snout there. Can you see that? Beginning to look more like a cat now, isn't it? And then from the bottom of the triangle, we're going to do a little smile, I suppose. Little markings to show where a smile might be, or where his mouth is going to be. Okay. Right, we've pretty much done most of the drawing now. Oh no, we haven't done that other leg. We need to do the leg behind here. There's one hiding there. Can you see that? So from the bottom of his tummy, the line up here that joins his tummy, you're going to draw another line down, another parallel line to the one before. Just do it slightly closer to the previous line, so it's a bit thinner, all the way down to the ground. So exactly the same as you did before. So you've got two legs at the front there, okay? Great, well done, guys. We're going to get cracking with the paint now. I'm going to find myself a slightly smaller brush. Sorry, I picked up the wrong one. Okay. Now what you're going to do is we're going to mix this sort of colour first of all, this sort of browny yellowy colour. So on your palette, sorry, I'm going to slow down a little bit. I'm just a bit pushed for time because I've only got the hour today. So I'm going to try and slow down a bit. I'll try and, are we all okay? Give me a thumbs up if you want me to slow down. Okay, everyone seems to be okay. Give me a thumbs up if you want me to carry on as I am. I think that's most people. Okay, right, let's keep going. As I say, you can always access the recording a bit later on if you've missed a bit, okay? Right, pop your brush into your water. Find yourself a nice colour which you think would be good for a cheetah. I've got this lovely colour here, this sort of mustardy yellowy colour, so I'm going to use that one. I'm going to make a little puddle of it on my palette. Not too much of it. I'm going to keep it quite pale for now, quite watery for now. Okay, and I'm just going to start by painting along the back, along his back here. I want to make sure, by the way, that this bit, his tummy, stays white, okay? Because cheetahs have nice white fluffy tummies. So we're just going to work the paint along his back, first of all, and up into his head a bit. Okay, just work it in a bit like this. Round the base as well. Oh, this is going to be that lovely deep yellow as well, all around his back leg. Okay. And just keep adding a little bit more. You don't want to make the page too wet, okay? You want to try and keep it a bit dry.
Mine's quite bright.
That's okay. It could be a nice bright cheetah. If you're just using normal yellow, you can try adding a little tiny bit of orange or a tiny little bit of red to make it a little bit darker, okay, if you don't have this colour on your palette. Okay. So just go around the other side as well now, so down his front part. Do you know what I didn't do actually? I didn't put a curved bit in for his chest. Sorry guys, this bit here. If you can just quickly do that, that'd be great. Sorry, I missed that a bit then. So just a little tiny little curve to make his chest a little bit more curved rather than straight. We can rub out that straight line in a minute. Could you see what I did there? Let's try and rub that bit out there. Where's rib cage would be. Okay, so let's just paint that in as well. And with the same colour, we're going to go down the leg as well. That front leg. You can fill all of that in with this lovely yellowy colour. And the one behind as well, but just be careful of his tummy, keep that white.
I have a question.
Yeah.
How come you never paint straight from the palette onto the paper? Why do you always like put it on the lid first and then put it onto the paper?
I usually like to mix my colours together, so I might be choosing 2 or 3 different colours to mix together. So if you have your palette, it's a bit like a mixing plate. I'm not mixing any colours together today, but it's just force of habit, I think, for me. But also you can sort of see what the colour is going to be like before you put it on your paper. You can test it out on your palette first of all. Okay. Right, let's pop that colour now onto his head. So up the side of his head. You might want to use a slightly smaller brush if you find it easier. Keep his snouty bit, his nose, keep that white. Just work the paint around the top of his head, above his eyes, and down the other side. Okay, just as I said, just keep his nose bit white for now. And put a bit of colour on top of his ears. There we go. If you want to make it darker, you can just add a little bit more of that colour, but with a little less water. So I'm going to do that now, actually. I'm going to make the very sort of outside bit a bit darker, so the edge of his body a bit darker. Can you see that bit there? So because this bit's now dry, because I did that bit first, I can then add another colour on top, a bit darker version of the same colour, on the areas that I want. If you did it when it was still
My head looks like a bright orange llama.
I'm sure it looked great. Okay, and you can just put a bit of darker colour in the areas that you want. Okay, so just I'm on his back leg, this bit here, I'm making this bit a bit darker as well. Okay. We'll move on to his tail in a minute. So I'm just putting a bit more colour all over his body now, underneath his chin, on that back leg as well, the one that's slightly behind. Oh, and his paw, I forgot his little paw just there. Okay. And I'm going to make this bit a bit lighter, being careful not to go over his white tummy. So it should be quite patchy now because you've got a couple of layers of that yellow on there. So it should be nice and patchy because obviously they've got fur. It's quite difficult painting fur, but if you do it quite patchy, it tends to look more fluffy. Okay, let's move on to his tail now. So starting at the base, just the same colour again. If you have got brown in your palette, you could add that to a bit of your yellow as well, okay? Or Leo, if you did a cake, must you paint it now? Yes, I'm not going to be painting a cake today. It might be a good idea to put the cake in afterwards, actually, after you've done your cheetah, if that's okay, because I'm not going to be painting a cake today. Is that okay? All right, let's get painting on the tail. Now we're going to make sure that we sort of get a little bit paler with the tail as we get towards the end. So probably about halfway down his tail, we're going to gradually fade out that sort of yellowy colour, okay? Because we're going to make it stripy, to have slight stripes on their tails. Sort of white sort of stripes. Going to make it a little bit darker at the end of it. Okay. So can you see it sort of gradually fading out, that colour gets whiter and whiter as it gets towards the end. All right. All okay so far? Jolly good. Okay, next stage. We're now going to find a brown or a sort of reddy brown. I've got this one here. Can you see this one here? You might have, if you have the same palette, it's the one that's right above the one we just used. And I'm just going to use this to highlight some of the darker areas. I'm going to keep it quite watery for now. It's like a reddy brown. If you don't have reddy brown, you could use this brown here, which is like a more of a chocolatey brown. Okay, you can choose. But what we're going to do now is we're going to put this on his, I don't know, is it his back leg, his hip, I suppose, this bit here, to create a bit of shadow, okay? A bit of contrast. It might be that your paint's still wet underneath, in which case you might want to dab it slightly. I'm going to put some darker paint in that leg that's slightly behind as well. Again, to make it look like it's slightly behind this one here. Okay. All right, everyone. And I'm also going to put some darker paint around the bottom of this back leg, because this is quite a shadowy area here. It's near the ground, it's quite shadowy. So again, just to create a bit of 3D-ness. And on his paw as well, his back paw. Okay. Is everybody okay? Good. Now, while you're waiting for your leopard to dry and the tail to dry, we're going to work on the crown or whatever headgear you've chosen to do. So I've done my crown, obviously, so I'm going to paint that. I might do it a slightly different colour to the one here. I might do a pink one, actually, like a sort of party crown. So choose your colour you want to do your hat in or your crown. And you can just very carefully paint that in. Just be very, very careful. If the paint is still wet on your head, you need to make sure it's completely dry. Just blot it with a tissue or something. Otherwise, you're going to have all the colours running into the head, the face. You don't really want that, okay? So just go easy with it. and just blot it if you need to. Okay. Might make mine a bit darker at the top there. Add some more colour to it. There we go. All right. Is everyone happy and okay? Everyone looks okay, which is good to see. Okay. What we're going to do next is we're going to start painting the stripes on the tail now. Okay, so hopefully this bit here is nice and dry. Again, just dab it with a bit of tissue if it's not yet dry. And with a really fine brush, I've got a size 0 here, but you can use a 1 or a 0, up to you, or a 2 perhaps. We're going to find a nice grey in your palette. Now you might not have grey in your palette, so the best thing to do if you don't have grey is to find a black, but make it watery. So add a bit more water to water it down. Okay, so I've got my grey there. Can you see that? And what they have, cheetahs, they have stripes in their tail, but because obviously they're still furry, so we're not going to put the stripes going around like this, up and down. We're going to do tiny little brush strokes. I'm going to hold up the camera so you can see, actually. Tiny little brush strokes. Hang on, I don't know if you can see that very clearly. I can't do it. I can't do it holding it up. Little brush strokes sort of going this direction, the direction of the tail. I can't do it holding up. Sorry, guys. Put it down again. Little like horizontal, tiny little grey marks in stripe form. And it just looks like they're fur. They're furry and fluffy. There
Mine looks more brown.
Can you see that, guys? So they're tiny little marks. There we go. You can sort of see it, I think. Hopefully you can. And just work your way. Keep the end of the tail nice and white. So you don't want any grey on the end of the tail, but just keep your marks horizontal. And if this bit here is dry, of your tail, your yellow bit here, you can put some grey stripes on that as well. Horizontal marks. Okay. Great. Looks like they're all coming together, which is good. Okay, pop your brush down for a second. We're going to get your black fine liner out now. So if you've got one at hand, that'd be great. We're going to start adding. Oh, I've just realised my pink hat has run into my tutor's face. I need to stab that. Otherwise, he looks like he's all red and flushed. I might have to go over that later. Didn't see that happening. No. Right, okay. Don't know if you can pick that up on the camera actually, but it looks quite pink here. Okay, let's just double check that it's all dry. Give it a quick dab, first of all, to make sure it is, a bit of tissue. Because your black fine liner won't work if it's still a bit wet, okay? So just be careful. So I'm just going to quickly dab it to make sure it's completely dry. Okay. Now we're going to start putting some spots on our cheetah, okay? Now can you see from this guy here, all my spots are different sizes. Okay, I've got some slightly larger ones, some slightly smaller ones. And so we're going to work our way over the cheetah. I want you to try and keep the belly bit though, the tummy bit, spot free, okay? They don't tend to have many black spots in their tummy. So on their back, you can do little dots. Just scatter them around, maybe some slightly bigger ones and some smaller ones. Just vary them slightly. Put some up towards his neck as well. And on his legs. Okay. Cheetahs are such beautiful animals, aren't they? Their markings are stunning. Apparently, cheetahs got very poor eyesight. Did you know that? So that's why they only hunt in the daytime, because they can't see at night. Unlike lions, which hunt at night, don't they? So I'm going to put some on his front legs as well, some little black marks.
We do some on the face.
Yeah, you can do some on the face, yeah. I'll come to that bit in a minute. And don't forget the leg behind as well. Do a few spots on there. Just be careful not to do your spots in a line, if that makes sense. Yes, you don't want to have like a stripy cheetah. You want to do them quite randomly. Okay? While you've got your black fine liner out, you're going to put little claws in as well. I'm just going to rub out my pencil lines just very quickly, if it's dry, because I don't really want them on the, oops. I'm going to put little claws on, so literally they are just little black marks like that. Hopefully you can see that. Can you see that there? Oops, there we go. Is that better? Probably a bit better. And you won't be able to see the ones behind, the claws on the leg behind, so we'll leave that one. But we can do the one here, 2 little lines there as well. Okay. Now up to his face. Okay, so with his black, we'll start off with his black triangular nose first of all. You're going to colour the whole thing in black, apart from, you're going to leave a tiny little white bit, which is going to make it look like he's got a shiny nose. So colour it all in black, really finely, leaving a little tiny bit white. And then go over those pencil lines which are coming out the bottom of his nose, his little mouth, and into the lines which go up round the top of his eye. So I only want you to do, at the moment, do the line that goes over the top for the moment, okay? So little S shapes that you drew earlier. There we go. Okay. Now cheetahs have brown eyes. They have really dark, beautiful brown eyes, sort of like almost like yellowy brown eyes, but beautiful colour. You can do that if you want to for yours. What I'm going to do is I'm going to get a tiny bit of paint, and I'm going to paint the outside bit of his eye, and then I'm going to do the black bit in the middle, and I'll show you how to do that. So you only need a tiny, you could almost use a colouring pencil. If you feel happier using a colouring pencil, you'll find you've got more control over that than a paintbrush. So I'm just going to show you quickly, because it's actually such a tiny area. Let me just hold it up to show you. Can you see I've done a lines inside the eyes? Can you see that? Sorry about the pink face in my cheetah. I'll have to go over that later. Now that middle bit is going to be black, apart from a white line in the middle of it, okay? That's going to be the shine in his eyes. It's a very, very small area. Can you see I've left a white bit in the middle of his eyes? Now, if you want to, the bit around the outside, mine is so small, I think I'm going to do mine with a colouring pencil. Or you could do it with paint if you've gone slightly bigger. So the bit outside, either side of the black bit, in each corner of the eye, that could be the brown, okay? Right, I haven't done any spots on my cheetah's head. I'm sure you guys have already done that. So I'm going to put a few random spots here. And on his ears, obviously, as well. And a few on his cheeks. Only little, these ones. And I'm going to put a few spots as well where his whiskers would be. So either side of that black triangle that you did. I've done a few tiny little spots. Can you see that? Okay. Oh, I haven't done his tail. I need these spots on his tail as well. Again, just make sure it's completely dry before you put your black fine liner on, okay? A few black spots going along his tail. There we go. Okay. Now, if you have got your colouring pencils at hand, I'm going to show you now how to add some shadows. Because can you see on this guy here, I've added shadows underneath his tummy here, and the back leg, and underneath here as well. And I've also added shadow at the top too. But I've done that with a grey colouring crayon. So if you have got a grey colouring crayon, you're going to need that now, okay? I would recommend that you do not use a normal drawing pencil to colour. I know it's grey, but actually they don't work as well. So if you have got a grey colouring pencil, that's great. If you haven't, then I'm sure you can find a black one. That works just as well. You just don't press as hard. Okay. So with your grey colouring pencil, you're going to add a little bit of shadow now. So we'll start here on top of his back leg, just here. So we're going to just shade in really carefully a sort of I tend to, when I shade in the colouring crayon, rather than going up, down, I tend to do tiny little circles, and I find it just gives a much softer and smoother covering of crayon. So can you see the direction I'm going with my pencil here? Just tiny little, I'll hold up to show you. I'll try and do it close up. Tiny little circles, just gently on the surface of the paper. So I'm not pressing too hard, pressing quite lightly. And it just gives it a much more softer look, okay? I'm going to do the same up here on this end of his tummy too. So tiny little circles, really, really gently, blending them up the top of that leg, just up there, and then down to his tummy a bit. You don't want to see the southern edges of your colour, okay? You want it just to blend in really gradually. Okay, so he should have a sort of a grey shadowy sort of on his tummy now. I want you to do the same now along the bottom, so this part of his body. So again, on top of your colour that you've already done, you're just going to do tiny little circles with your grey crayon, or black if you're using black, just press really lightly if you're using black. Little circles all the way across the bottom there, all the way to his little paw. Again, onto his paw, make that a bit grey as well. And then on his tail as well, we're going to do a bit of shadow here as well to make it a bit darker where it joins the body. And I'm going to add a little bit of grey shadow along the top line of my tail to make it look like it's rounded, okay? Again, adding shadow makes things look more three-dimensional. So just a little bit of shading along the top edge of my tail. Hope you can see that okay. It's quite tricky, isn't it? Can you see that? Actually, I've missed a bit there. It looks like the tail's falling off. I might have to join that up a bit. There we go. A bit of shadow in it. And then if you want to, you can take your grey crayon as well. A little bit perhaps along his back as well. A tiny bit. Just give him a bit of an outline. Just a little bit along that line, that diagonal line you drew very first. And up towards his neck. I'm going to do a little shadow underneath his chin. Just a little one. Where his chin would be. Okay. I'm also going to put shadow underneath his crown or underneath his hat, up the top here, just on this side, on the left-hand side, to create, again, 3D shape. And onto his ear. They have little grey sort of fluffiness inside their ear as well. So if you want to, you could use your crayon just to do tiny little hairs, little fluffy hairs coming out of his ears. Tiny little ones. You probably can't see these on the camera, but I'll try and hold up to show you. Can you see fluffy hairs there, sort of? Okay. All right. I'm going to go back down his leg now, back down his chest, sorry. I'm going to put a bit of grey on his chest, just here, that bit there. And then I'm also going to put some grey on that leg, which is hidden behind. Okay, this one here, just make it a little bit darker to show that it is slightly further behind. Just a little bit. And I'm going to put some shadow on that foot, that front foot as well. Again, my little circular motions with my pencil, hardly pressing the paper at all. Oh, let me see, Emily. Oh, Emily, that's beautiful. You guys have got this. I'm going to get everyone to have a look at everyone's in a minute, that's okay. Shall I show you how to do the grass now? This bit here. Lovely, Theo. Oh, look at that hat. Fantastic. Lovely, Theo. Love it. Right, let me show you how to do the grass now. Now, I'm lucky because I've got a lovely set of pencils with about 48 different colours in them. And I've picked out two colours which I think look quite nice, like the, see, like the African savannah, so like kind of greeny grassy, but not like bright green. They're quite dull green, sort of moss greens. Can you see those colours there? If you've got something similar, those two colours would be amazing. So it's like a dark sort of foresty green and more like a sort of a greeny yellowy green. If you haven't got that and you've only got one green which is quite bright, you can use that, but press really lightly and you can mix it with a bit of yellow on top, okay? And that'll make it more like this colour. All right, so there is a way around it if you don't have these sort of greens. So to do your grass, I'm going to start off with my lighter one first of all. And I'm just going to do horizontal lines, little horizontal lines underneath where he's sitting. Just pressing quite lightly first of all. I don't want to go too dark just yet. Just little horizontal lines all the way behind his tail as well over this side. Okay, I'm not sure if you can see that very clearly. I'm going to press a little bit harder the closer I get to his body. Okay, so the colour will be stronger as I get closer to his body. I'm not going to go over the whole thing. I'm just going to do a little patch of grass just here, okay? So underneath his paws as well, I'm going to press a little bit harder where his paw is. Again, that sort of creates a bit of a shadow as well. Just horizontal lines for now. I'll show you how to do the sticky uppy ones in a minute. We're going to do little tufts of grass for that bit there. Okay, so a bit darker to where his body is, where it touches his body. Pressing a bit harder with my pencil. Okay. And then just going off that way a bit and going off that way a bit. And I'm going to put the same as well underneath the tail as well, okay? We're just creating little shadows on the grass where the animal is touching the grass, where he's sitting. So just have a think about where the tail's touching the grass, where the paw's touching the grass, and little horizontal, which means side to side for now, little lines, shading them in. I'm going to use my darker green in just a second. This is a really good way, by the way, if you're having to colour in grass or something else, rather than colouring the whole thing green, you could just do sections of it, and it does make it look much more realistic, I think, rather than colouring it all in the same colour, just doing patches of grass. If you have to do something in an art lesson or something, and they're saying, oh, we have to colour in the grass now, have a go at doing it like this, where you just colour in patches of it. Because if you look out on the grass as well, it's not all the same green all over, is it? It's sort of lots of different greens. So you don't want to colour it all in the same green. I'm going to pick up my darker one now, and I'm going to go nearest the animal, so nearest where his feet are, and press quite hard with these bits. I'm just going to go over the same areas, mixing the colours in a little bit. It just gives it a little bit more interest because it's two different greens I'm using here. I'm not going above here, by the way. If you notice, I'm only going to do the grass that he's sitting on. Okay, so I'm not going to put anything up here. How are we doing for time? Oh, we've got 10 minutes. That's okay. We'll get this done. No problem. I was panicking, thinking there's lots to do. We're not going to get it all done, but we will. Okay. So I'm not putting as much of dark green on. Right, with your lighter green or your other green, whichever one you're using, we're going to do little tufts of grass now. So you're going to use the very, very pointy bit of your pencil and keep it quite upright. So rather than having it on the edge like we're doing just now, we're going side to side, weren't we? We're going to just use the point of our pencil to do tiny little flicky lines coming out from where he's sitting to show where the blades of grass are. I'll hold up to show you what I've just done. Can you see that there? Little like flicky lines just to show you, just to suggest that's what he's sitting on, little blades of grass. We'll do the same just under these paws here and over here as well. So tiny little short, sharp, flicky blades of grass. Just in little clumps. You don't want to do it all the way across because it won't look realistic then. Just a little bit here. All different directions as well. It doesn't have to be all the same direction. And underneath his tail too. Can you see that? Now I've just done it with that one green, but if you want to, you can put a mixture of the greens in. You can do the other greens as well. Okay.